Torah Life Ministries come out of the world. Messiah people seek the truth.
All right, everybody, here we are with Richard Reeves, one of our favorite guests. Say hello, Richard.
Hello.
Okay, Richard, tell everybody who you are briefly.
Well, my name's Richard Reeves. I'm president of Wyatt Archaeological Research. I've also written a couple of books. One of them's entitled Too Long in the Sun, and the new one is Time is the Ally of Deceit.
Thank you very much. And Richard has been on the show before. Now, Richard, what are we going to talk about today? Let's talk about a very popular story in the scriptures about Sodom and Gomorrah, because it says when Yeshua comes back, it's going to be just like those times. But what were going on those times? You did a lot of research and you looked at the facts, not just opinion. So tell us a lot about what happened at those times.
Well, anyway, the scriptures say that the remains of Sodom and Gomorrah are to be in samples. That's the word the King James Version used. And if you look up the Greek word, it means a visual example. In order to be an ensample, it has to be something you can see. And the remains of Sodom and Gomorrah are still there today to be seen. The first century historian Josephus said you could see them. In 1928, there was a man by the name of Melvin Kyle that worked with William Albright. And he said the same thing. And then a few years later, Ron Wyatt comes along and finds them again. So they've always been right there as a visual example for people that would choose to live ungodly lives.
And when you say visual example, explain more, because first briefly explain to people what we say when we say mean Sodom and Gomorrah and exactly what you're talking about, this visual example.
Well, it says because of the wickedness of the people there that God destroyed them, that he rained fire and brimstone out of heaven on those cities. And along the western shores of the Dead Sea, we find ashen remains with brimstone all in it, or pieces of sulfur. And this sulfur is very unique. You don't find it anywhere else on earth. We've been to mineral collections at the various museums around the world, volcanic areas looking for it. And this is very unique sulfur that actually has a capsule around it that has metals in it that melt at temperatures hotter than the vaporization point of the sulfur inside. So the question is, how did that sulfur survive while that capsule was being formed? And there's only one answer: God put it there.
Wow, so you're saying the story in the scriptures with Sodom and Gomorrah, and when Lot ran away with his wife and his wife turned around and the city was being destructed because there was pillars of fire and brimstone coming down from the sky, that some people say, oh, this is just a story, it's not true. But you're saying you have physical evidence to show that this is true.
We have physical evidence. When you burn calcium carbonate or limestone, which is what those cities were made out of, in the presence of brimstone or sulfur, it produces calcium sulfate ash. And there are city-sized piles of calcium sulfate ash scattered out along the western shores of the Dead Sea with millions of pieces of brimstone all in it. And Genesis 10:19 tells us where to look for those cities. It says they were the border or the boundaries of the Canaanites. So they mark the western portion of the Canaanite land, and you go from Sodom to Gomorrah to Admah to Zeboim, and then according to the scripture it jumps up to Laish in the north. So those are the western boundary markers, and they're still right there today for everybody to see.
And this is pretty well-known information today. More and more people know about this.
More and more people are learning about it. But like I say, the first century historian Josephus said that, so he's a reputable historical source. Once again, William Albright is well known in the archaeological field. He said the same thing, and they're still right there today for anybody that wants to take a look.
And what's the significance of if this being true? So now we know we can prove it's true, but what's the significance of that?
Well, you know, a lot of people believe the Bible's just a bunch of stories, like you were saying. And archaeology proves over and over again that the Bible is an accurate record of history from beginning to end. It's the most accurate history book ever written. And, you know, there are millions of people today that believe it's just wild stories and fiction. But, you know, in the New Testament, what's important to us is we read about Yeshua, Jesus, and he says that Moses wrote about him. And he said if we wouldn't believe Moses, we wouldn't believe him. So there are a lot of people today that claim to be Christians that don't believe the writings of the Old Testament. They think they're Jewish fables. But once again, you just check it out. They're still right there to be seen.
Great. Well, you have information on us in your books and on your website. So give everybody your website so they can look at more of your information.
Okay, it's www.wyattmuseum, WYATTMUSEUM.com. And we just finished a new DVD and a little book called Fervent Heat, The Cities of the Plains, Sodom and Gomorrah. And so we're really excited about that, and all the lab tests and everything documenting the site are right there for anybody who wants to take a look.
And you have another website called toolong.com, right?
TOOLONG.com.
Great. All right, Richard, anything else you want to say to the Torah Life Ministries audience?
Well, I just appreciate the opportunity to share these things, and you know, the Bible tells us to prove all things and to hold fast that which is good. And when we check things out, you will find the Bible is accurate, and we need to start telling people that.
Great. Thank you very much, Richard.
Thank you.
Seek the truth, avoid the evil, learn Yahweh's way.